You talk family. What go on? What go on? This your boy D. And I got my guy, Mr. Larry Frank Jr. is in the building tonight. It don't change just because it's you talk winning at the game of life. Y'all know how we start every show. It ain't no us. Without you, baby.
How you, baby?
What's going on? What's going on, everybody, man? As you guys know, this is the special edition of You Talking. It's called Winning at the Game of Life. And tonight, we have a special guest. We're going to be bringing on law enforcement professional, man, Mr. Deon Washington. He's going to be joining us real soon. But Larry Frank, man, how are you doing tonight, brother? How's it going?
Going great, man. Going great. No complaints. No complaints, man. Just beautiful. Life is good. Life is awesome.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up, man. Man, shout out to the super producer, man, Mr. King Judge.
KJ Production in the building.
Like always, man, that's our brother King Judge. You talk family. What's going on? What's going on? So, without any further ado, let's bring on our special guest tonight, Mr. Deon Washington is in the building. You talk family. Let's give him a round of applause.
What's up, man?
What's going on, brother? How you doing, man? Not only, man, is this guy's in law enforcement, man. This is a friend, man. So I know him on the outside of this, man. This is like a brother, man. So you guys, man, any questions that you got? I mean, man, he's a real brother, man. He ain't gonna sugarcoat nothing, man. We gonna have a real conversation tonight, man, and that's why I brought him on the show. So, man, Deon, man, first of all, man, how you doing? I want to say thank you on behalf of me and Larry Frank and the You Talk family for coming on, man. I want to talk about these important issues that plague our community, man. And we want to talk about how to bridge the gap between black and brown communities with law enforcement, man, and just a lot of this senseless killing amongst ourselves. So, man, Deon, man, won't you go ahead and introduce yourself, man, and give us just a background of who Deon Washington is, man, and I'm gonna turn it over to you, brother. Go ahead.
Okay. So thank you guys for inviting me on the show. I appreciate this opportunity. My name is Deon Washington. I'm currently employed as a special agent with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, commonly known as ATF. I've been employed with them for almost 5 years. Prior to my employment with ATF, I was a police officer in Metro Atlanta with the Gwinnett County Police Department for 13 years. And before that, I was a soldier in the U.S. Army. I did one tour in Iraq in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2003 during the initial invasion into Iraq. Then I got out and got on with Gwinnett County Police. So that's the brunt of what we're going to talk about tonight. My time with the Gwinnett County Police Department. And of course, I'm still an employee with the Department of Justice and ATF. None of the things that I'm saying reflect the thoughts and opinions of the Department of Justice or ATF. This is just my personal thoughts and opinions about my personal experience as a law enforcement officer.
Most definitely. Most definitely. So, man, let's get into it, man. I know that you are a former veteran in the Army, man. Tell us a little bit about that, man. What made you want to join the Army and get involved in that?
Okay, so a lot of people in my family have military backgrounds. We're represented in almost all of the armed forces, with the exception of the Coast Guard and the newest branch of the military, the Space Force. So my grandpa was in the Navy. My several uncles in the Navy. My older sister, she retired from the Army about 5 years ago, and my younger sister, she's currently in the Air Force and deployed overseas right now. So a lot of people in my family, having served in the military, was a lot of the reason why I kind of gravitated towards that. And unfortunately, when I went in, September 11th happened when I was in basic training, and that shifted the entire experience that I had in the military because we began a conflict with Iraq. So, by the grace of God, I deployed to Iraq, served my time there, came back in one piece, and I was able to get out, and I'm happy to be here because there are a lot of people that I served with that I know that didn't come back, and some came back, but not the same way that they deployed. So, very thankful to be here.
Go ahead, Larry.
Oh, I was just going to ask, with the tour of Iraq, the experience. Well, first of all, thank you for your service, most
Yes, sir.
definitely. But your experience in Iraq, it's one thing when we're civilians watching it on television, but you're over there on the front lines. Tell us about your experience and how long you were there.
So my job, I was assigned to 4th Infantry Division, 3rd Brigade Combat Team out of Fort Carson, and I was assigned to a mechanized unit. So my unit had what are called Bradley fighting vehicles, and my job as a dismount infantryman was to basically ride in the back of this Bradley fighting vehicle, travel to different locations where we would conduct missions, and get out of that vehicle, close with, engage with the enemy, get back in it, and move to a different location. I spent about 7 months in country, and then I ended up coming back.
And you said with your unit being over there, you saw losses rather while you were over there. People that you knew. Anybody particular in your unit? Any that you suffered a loss?
Yes, Sergeant Dale Pantot. He was in 2nd platoon. I was in 3rd platoon. For those that aren't familiar with what platoons are, but it's just like maybe first shift and second shift. You see the people, you know them. Sometimes you may work with them, you may pass them, but you're not directly on their shift or team.
So I know you. Me and you met way back when.
When I was in the military.
Yeah, you was in the military, but we used to kick out some dirt out there in Colorado Springs, man. Colorado. So we stayed in contact, man, through all of those years, man. You moved to Georgia, so you came to Georgia and you became a police officer.
Mm-hmm.
What made you want to become a police officer whenever you got out of the military when you moved here to Atlanta?
So it's funny. My father used to be the chief of police in Maryland, Louisiana. Me and Larry were just talking about that in the pre-show. And I was a little boy. I was a little kid. But I used to remember him getting dressed, and I would play with some of his gear. And I'm sure that played a role in me deciding on law enforcement as a career choice. And I remember going to school and thinking as a kid that one day I wanted to become a special agent. Well, most people associate that, and I associated it with at the time with being an FBI agent. But once you get into law enforcement, you realize that there's special agents in many, many, many different parts of the federal government, and it is in the interest of you as an applicant, if you're going to become a special agent, not to just put all your eggs in one basket. So to get back to your question, why I chose law enforcement in Atlanta, when I got out of the Army, I had an aunt that still lives in Atlanta that worked for CDC, and I didn't want to move back to Baton Rouge because I had already experienced life there. And once you've been in the military, especially deployed, you start to realize that the world is a very, very big place, and there are a lot of opportunities in many different places. So it didn't make sense to me to go back home. So I had an aunt that lived in Atlanta. I knew you in Atlanta, and I said, you know what? Let me see what's going on out here. So I just went online, remembering Gwinnett County because that's the county my aunt lived in, and I dropped an application with Gwinnett County Police, and they hired me. It took about 6 months. At the time, I was working at CDC as a security officer. My aunt got me a job there, and while I was in the hiring process with Gwinnett County, and, 13, I did 13 years there. So
Yeah.
that's how I ended up in Atlanta.
Also, you came up pretty fast in the ranks, man. I think you became a SWAT officer as well, and man, you became the first black reporter for Gwinnett County Police. Tell us a little bit about that as well. Hey, shout out to Ryan Cowan too, Gwinnett Police Department, man. Shout out to Ryan Cowan. Talk to us a little bit about that, man.
So I did some time on the SWAT team. I did about 5 years on Gwinnett County's SWAT team. That's special weapons and tactics. That's essentially when the police call 911. Because the SWAT officers have specialty tools, training, and equipment to safely bring certain situations to a more safe conclusion. At the time that I decided to get off the SWAT team, I was on the SWAT team, I was a detective, and I was in school, in college, full time. So I was juggling all three of those responsibilities, and it came to a point where I had to make a decision because every single part of my day, both during my work days and when I was off duty, was accounted for. If I wasn't on a SWAT call out, I was investigating something as a detective. If I wasn't doing that, I was writing a paper or doing a PowerPoint. So I did it the hard way going to college. I wouldn't recommend that for anybody because I didn't get a lot of sleep. But yeah, so and I guess getting back to your question about you called me a reporter. I want to correct that. There's some police officers that wouldn't want to hear me be referred to as a reporter because that's different. So I was a public information officer. So that job is basically to be the liaison between the police department and the media to get information to the general public. So my job was to report any newsworthy material to the general public through the media. So homicides, officer-involved shootings, fatality, accidents, officer misconduct, anything that the general public would have an interest in, it was my job to report that through the news.
Okay.
And the thing that I think about that, as we talked with in pre-show, as Devin knows, I may have mentioned it here on prior shows, my wife is 19 years in law enforcement. So a lot of the stuff that you speak of, I have a lot of familiarity with, from dealing and listening to her experiences. And that's why when you said that you had to put it as the public information officer, that's why I was bobbing my head. I'm like, no, you're not a reporter. Because it bridges the gap as far as getting the information out to the public. And it's very, 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 you got to be very careful because you're representing the department, but you got to put the right information out to the public. Basically PR. Within the department, I'd like to ask you this. I looked at your bio. I saw that you were also in homicide. You did a homicide detective. I know that they have different levels in different departments. How many of those levels and how many of those different divisions, I should say, did you cover with your time with Gwinnett?
So I spent when you become a detective, most of the time you start off in property crimes. That's because those crimes are the low. They offer the lowest tier of punishment in our judicial system, and there's not I don't want to say a vested interest in them because nobody wants to lose their property, but persons' crimes affect the general public and they affect, society and people on a higher level. So armed robbery, stabbing, shooting, stuff like that, that is more indicative of homicide, robbery, and for some departments, felony assault units. In Gwinnett County, the first unit I served in was the burglary unit. Then I transferred to the robbery unit, did time there, and then ultimately I transferred to the homicide unit. So 3 different units in criminal investigations, and then I left there and became a public information officer for the department.
Okay.
So let's get to it, man. Let's get into it, bro. Like you see everything just like we see everything that's going on. And the question that I have is, I'm a black man, Larry black man, you're a black man. When we're riding in our car and we see the police get up behind us, like that's a scary feeling.
Mhm.
So, my question to you is like, how can we build a better relationship, or how can polices build a better relationship in the communities that they serve and make, black and brown people feel comfortable with interacting with them?
Yeah. Well, man, that's we can spend all night talking about just that one question. But as it relates specifically to traffic stops, I'll tell you, with as much law enforcement experience as I have, almost 20 years, I get a feeling when the police get behind me. And it's not because I'm doing anything wrong. That's just the way law enforcement affects, people traveling in vehicles. Because the first thing you think of is, I want to get a ticket. Am I speeding? Right? But it's a little different when you're engaged in criminal activity and you may be doing things that are unlawful. So I'll answer this way. Here's what I do when I'm stopped by the police. If I'm not in a place where I can immediately pull over to the right shoulder, I slow my speed, put my 4-way flashers on, and I acknowledge the officer's presence. So when he sees me slow my speed, he or she see me slow my speed, put my 4-way flashers on, in his mind, he's thinking, okay, this person's not running. They see that I'm here. They're probably moving to an area that's safe to pull over, or an area that they feel comfortable with. I always recommend that people pull over into a well-lit area, be it a gas station, a shopping center, a place where, there's no mistake about what's going on, and other people can see you for multiple reasons. I then roll down all the windows in my vehicle because I have tinted windows. I turn on my dome light, and I go ahead and get my driver's license out because that's the first thing the officer is going to ask for. I put it on my lap, and I put my hands back on the steering wheel.
Okay.
And next question. I'm sorry. That goes a long way at lowering the tension and angst in an officer's mind, because traffic stops and answering domestic violence calls, those are the most dangerous calls for law enforcement to engage in. They have no clue who they're dealing with when they make a stop. Yes, when officers run plates on cars, they can see who the vehicle is registered to, but that doesn't mean that the registered owner is the person that's driving the vehicle. So approaching that car, you don't know what will happen. I can tell you from my own personal knowledge, this past week in a traffic stop in the Midwest, an officer was killed just walking up to a traffic stop. The guy with an AK-47 just started shooting at him for no reason, no warning, no reason, and he ended up being killed. So I say that to say you can do things to make traffic stops safer for you, and you can do things to make traffic stops safer for police as well by doing those simple things: slowing your speed, acknowledging the officer, rolling down your windows if they're tinted, turning on your dome light just so that he or she can see, and just going ahead and getting your license out because that's what they're going to ask for. That way you're not fumbling around, reaching for different things while you're interacting with the police officer.
Okay. So what about when you're dealing with, what about if you do all of those things correctly that you just said, but you're still dealing with the racist white cop that want to be the cowboy and just, for whatever reason, he's having a bad day or whatever it is, that just want to give you a hard time. Like, so I guess my question is, like, what rights do I have if I get pulled over and I'm doing everything right? Like, can I, and he's still being irrational, can I ask to see a supervisor or some type of like superior officer? How does that work?
Yeah, so here's what I would say about that. And this is a very critical part of modern day policing. The vast majority of police departments require officers to wear body cameras. And I can tell you from my own personal experience, supervisors are required to monitor their officers' body camera footage and do audits on a regular basis to make sure that they are engaging with the general public in a respectful, courteous, and professional way. If you have a problem with the way that an officer is engaging with you, that is completely separate from why you were stopped. You don't have the right while you're being stopped to contest the stop, because even if you get a ticket, it's not an admission of guilt. It just means that you received that ticket as a summons and you have the right to either pay the ticket or appear in court. So I say all that to say, if you have a legitimate complaint, you always have the right to conclude the traffic stop, do whatever sign the ticket or not sign the ticket, and file a complaint with whatever police department is in that particular jurisdiction.
My wife has always advised me, and I've taken this advice, and I'm glad she told me this. Your attitude, how you talk, even though you're scared, even though you feel, hey, you're messing with me, because we all going to feel that naturally, still keep a very monotone interaction. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. I had one particular traffic stop about a year ago, a little over a year ago. I was coming home from work, and they pulled me over. And one thing about me being married to a law enforcement, I'm a little bit more tedious about not breaking the law, because I'm reminded, don't you do this, don't you do that. Obviously seatbelt on, and when I'm on open highway, I have my cruise set, so that way I'm not going to speed. If it's 75, I'm going 75. I get pulled over, and apparently I swerved. I don't know what happened, but I swerved. Maybe I blacked out for a second. I don't know, brain fart, whatever you want to call it. I was scared. The lights were on. It was night. I was legitimately scared. So the guy, he came up to me, white guy, and just like what you said, I had everything ready right there. License and registration. Hey, officer, how you doing? Did I do something wrong? Yeah, I'm just checking you out to make sure everything's okay, because you look like you swerve. I just want to make sure everything's good. I know I hadn't done nothing, so I handed him my credentials, ran my plate, everything came back okay. And when he comes back, he says, be careful going home, have a nice evening. And I think that was the most relief. That's one of the best feelings that you can get, because basically, my understanding, it's all about survival. Don't put yourself in a situation where they're going to have to get defensive. I say all that to go here. Media portrayal. Because we see how the media, they highlight certain situations. We've seen the shootings and stuff like that. Do you think the media is accurately portraying some of these situations? I mean, I know a lot of this stuff is factual, but a lot of times they'll cut out the whole situation. You only get a portion of something. You see the police is the aggressor, and they won't show, what led to that. What's your thoughts on the media portrayal and how everything now is in the media and social media, and you could just see it everywhere?
Yeah. So I'm glad you mentioned attitude when you're stopped by a police officer. I did a a traffic stop educational video when I was the public information officer with Gwinnett County. And I basically filmed two separate encounters with the police. One where a young lady was being extremely confrontational, aggressive, and disrespectful. And the second where she was being compliant and, just she listened and did what the officer asked them to do. Like the old folks in pretty much every, genre of our society say, you get more with sugar and honey with everybody than you do with salt and vinegar. If you're respectful, if you're kind, if you are professional, 9 times out of 10, that interaction is going to be a lot better than it would be if you were the opposite of that. That should be common sense. But unfortunately, there are times where, for whatever reason, be it a previous experience, just a dislike for the police, or, some people don't have good home training. They're going to be aggressive. They're going to be confrontational, and they're going to make things a little more difficult than they have to be. And so it is paramount that you keep that even keel. You remember that officer is there to do a job. He will stop for a reason. There are hundreds of reasons why a police officer can initiate a traffic stop. And it's not all the time because you're being picked on. You may feel you're being picked on, but if your tag light was out, that's a moving violation, so you can be stopped. If your tail light was out and you didn't know that, you're not being picked on. You were being stopped because you have a tail light out. So you're required to answer to that. And that's not the fault of law enforcement. Your local legislature has a list of laws that give police officers the reason and authority to initiate a traffic stop. As far as what the media does, as far as portraying certain situations. In today's time, things are a lot different from when I started as a street police officer versus almost 20 years later now. Everybody has a cell phone with 4K HD quality cameras. Most, like I said, reputable police departments have body camera footage, and most of the businesses that are around the highways and byways of our country are going to have some type of closed camera TV video surveillance. So you get a pretty good picture from multiple vantage points of how different situations unfold. And I can say from my experience dealing with the media, they try very hard to get facts as accurate as possible, but they only have a certain amount of time to give you the information about a particular incident. Because just like this show is slated for a certain period of time, so are the news reports. So the onus is on you, if you're very interested in a particular situation, to do your own research and figure out exactly what happened in a situation. And you do that by using multiple media outlets. You can file open records requests at your local police department, and you can educate yourself on what actually took place, especially if that particular traffic stop ends up in court, or a use of force ends up in court. Every court in this country is open to you as a citizen. Tomorrow morning, I can go and sit in the Harris County courtroom all day long if I want to, and watch all the cases that are coming through on the docket. I don't have to wait on the 5 o'clock news or the 6 o'clock news. I can see what happened myself. But most people aren't going to do that. They're not that interested that they want to invest their own personal time and money and energy to fully understand what actually took place.
I want to, real quick, while we're talking about bridging the gap into the communities, I want to talk about the youth. Because I think with the presence of social media and the reliance of social media by the youth, we're all about the same age, mid-40s or so. I know when I was 16, 17, wasn't no social media, so we weren't going out our way to prove a point. We were just living life. But the average 16, 17, 18-year-old today, they want to go viral. They want to get likes. What, in your opinion, from a law enforcement perspective, can be done to make those relationships between law enforcement and the youth of these communities better? Because I know from what I'm told, and my wife, she goes into communities, she works in the communities. They have an actual community activist center, and they do all kind of stuff for the kids in the poor sections,
Mhm.
and she has a good relationship with them.
Yeah.
Besides that, for the average areas that may not have those community programs, what can be done to bridge the gap and really represent law enforcement as not being so bad to our young people?
Yeah. Man, that's a great question, and I'm glad you asked me that. So I'll just say the first thing we need to do is that needs to start at home. We all need to teach our children and our nieces and nephews and our cousins and brothers and sisters that you are required. You should be required. If you hold a family's last name, certain things are required of you when you go out into the general public. There was a time, especially with black people, where I know where I'm from, and I know Larry where you're from, Devin where you're from in the South. You're not gonna go out and embarrass our family. That's a no-no. And we've kind of gotten out of touch with that a little, and we don't have a lot of control over the activities that we engage in the general public. So you push that on police, and police have a very limited tool bag when it comes to engaging with the public. And I'll explain it like this. So whenever officers come into the precincts for their shifts, they're assigned zones. Those zones or beats or whatever you want to call it are territorial boundaries that they're responsible for patrolling during their particular shifts. Most of the time, especially in large communities, when they go into service or start their shift, there are calls, 911 calls pending for them to answer. So it's just like being in an emergency room and a nurse. As soon as she walks in the door, there's 10 patients waiting on her. So you may have an accident, you may have a domestic dispute between a husband and wife, you may have a shooting pending, you may have an alarm pending, and a supervisor is responsible for determining which call has the highest priority and which officer to send to that location. And so I say that to kind of paint the picture of law enforcement doesn't have a lot of time to spend doing community outreach in a sense of what we would like to see, right? But we have to do it better. We have to make time. We have to, initiate those programs that you're talking about, open our doors, invite people in, give them an opportunity to engage and interact with us on a personal level so that they understand what it is we're responsible for doing. We can't put that onus on the back of the zone officer that's responsible for 911 calls, because here's the deal. If your wife or if your son or loved one calls 911, you don't want to get a dial tone saying that Officer Tommy is eating ice cream with the lady next door. That's not what you want. You want a unit to be en route as quickly as possible to handle whatever situation you're calling about. So again, the onus is on both sides. We have to do better with that by doing more community outreach programs. I would say requiring more officers to engage the general public on a more consistent basis. And
Cold caller.
keep in mind, it also requires funding because it's not free. Everything requires money, right?
Right.
So if we're talking about manpower shortages across the country in law enforcement, you're only going to have a certain amount of officers that are responsible for answering 911 calls, and that's the number one priority answering 911 calls.
Okay, we got a caller. If you're just tuning in, we got law enforcement professional Mr. Deon Washington
It's
on
Utah, baby.
tonight. Shout out to our guy, Mr. Deon Washington, man. Larry Frame, what it do? Call up, man. State your name and where you calling from.
Jamal Davis, Avon Park, Florida.
Jamal Davis in the building, man. Avon Park, Florida. What it do, man? My city, man. Jamal, talk to us, man. You on with Deon Washington.
What's up, Deon?
What's up, Jamal? How you doing, man?
Great guy. Know him as a friend. I know him personal. Great guy, man. But I was calling. You know, I've had run-ins with the police, and it could have went a little sour. I mean, one time me and Devin had a run-in with the police. We was about 16 in his uncle's car, a Crown Vic. We riding by the mall. Police pull us over. We icing what he pulled us over for. Say some young black boy can't afford a car like that. That's the reason they pulled us over. Thought the car was stolen. I've got pulled over in my car in my hometown for 10. Can't led up to them taking me out the car, and I'm telling them, well, just write their tent ticket, let me go. They taking me out the car, running, making me empty my pocket, going through all my belongings, making me do a sobriety test, all this foolishness. And it come out, those two cops got fired because they was out taking funds from Spanish guys in our hometown. And I mean, me personally, I think it needs to be an age group on how they hire police officers. I don't think they should hire an 18-year-old because he haven't lived life and he don't know anything. And I think that'd be a lot of the problem too. They get the badge and then they jump like they big and oh you got to do what I say and this and that, and they trump over all your civil rights. Yeah. I mean, you have rights, and I mean, when you question what they're doing, they get and then they assholes. I want to get to talk about black on black crime too. So I mean, what you do in those situations? What the first situation, and I want to know a little bit about the black on black crime.
Yeah, I'll tell you, man. I'm sorry. It always breaks my heart to hear people having negative encounters with the police because that has an effect on every officer across the nation. Because people don't just associate, one officer as one officer. It's everybody, and it makes us take steps backwards, and it does a disservice to the people that are out here putting their lives on the line, working hard and doing it right. But what I will say is, if you feel that you have been mistreated, if you feel that your rights have been violated, if you feel that something was not proper on any traffic stop, you have the right to contest it in court, and you also have the right to file a complaint with internal affairs. And there are checkpoints, like I said, in every major reputable police department, and these particular complaints are taken seriously. I know I can speak on behalf of well, let me rephrase that. I can speak on behalf of my experience with Gwinnett County that internal affairs takes those allegations extremely seriously, and they will notify you of each step in the process and handle each officer accordingly, including both termination and arrest. We've had officers during my time at Gwinnett County who've been terminated for officer misconduct, and not only terminated but arrested. So I make no qualms about sometimes police officers stepping outside of the boundaries of the oaths that they've taken and the responsibilities that they have. They are responsible for upholding the law, enforcing the law, and doing it professionally and with the highest level of courteousness. So if They step outside of that. Exercise your rights to file a complaint, retain an attorney, and handle it like that. Don't do it with the officer on the side of the road, because that's never a smart recipe for a positive conclusion.
Jamal, you had a second question too. What was the second question you had for him?
And my second question was, do you think it should be an age limit on what the hiring process started at?
Yeah.
But I think, me personally, I think 18, 21, I think that's too young to have that much authority over someone, and you haven't even begun to live life.
Yeah.
Your mind, your way of thinking is totally different than a grown adult. A young adult do not think like a seasoned person that lives life. I mean, I think that's part of the problem too.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that in the United States, in order to carry a handgun, you have to be 21 years old. So most departments, in order to be out on the streets policing in every department, you have to be at least 21 years old. Now, there are perhaps certain sheriff's departments who are responsible for jailing that you can be, less than the age of 21 to work in law enforcement. But as far as being a police officer on the streets, 21 up is the national standard.
You got anything else for him, Jamal, before we get you out of here?
Yeah, and, I would like to know some things about what's going on with the black on black crime.
Good question.
Yeah, so it's no secret that across the country, violent crime is up in every major city. And unfortunately for all of us, because we're black men, we are a major part of that. And I don't really see the trends changing anytime soon for multiple reasons, because of the economical situation in this country. We're coming off the heels of COVID and being locked down. A lot of people have lost income and jobs, and that's on the heels of the issues that were already plaguing our community. So it just kind of compounded the problem that was already there. What I'll say is, again, going back to my earlier point, we have to do a better job in our own homes with our own children and with the children that we have the ability to influence and be around. Entertainers, rappers, sports performers, they should not be the parents of our youth. Glorifying entertainment, violence,
Ryan Cowan.
the sexualization of women, drug abuse, other substance abuse, alcoholism, the songs that are promoted as if these particular rappers are geniuses. That's not what should guide the mentality of our children. We have to shift that focus and expose our youth to things that are more positive and fruitful to our society, and in turn our community as black people. So what about politics? What about climate change, economical disparities in our community? Why aren't we interested in those things? Well, because those issues are very difficult, and it requires that we have a certain level of education, a certain level of attentiveness, and dedication to that particular topic. It's not so easy that we just go and sit and we come up with a beat and a hook and we gain, social popularity.
Good question. Yeah. Good answer, man. Jamal, man, anything else before I get you out of here, brother?
No, that's it. Hey,
all right,
guys, keep doing a good job, and I talk to y'all later.
All right, brother, man. We love you, man. You already know.
All right, Jamal.
All right.
Later. Sorry, Sumter, what it do? Sorry, Sumter in the building. What's going on? Utah family, what it do? Man, yeah, man. Let's stop acting like, man, that black on black crime, Larry Frank, man. Me and you talk about this all the time, man. That is not going on in the community, man. Like we definitely got to address certain issues that's going on in our own backyard, and stop trying to ignore certain stuff, man. Deon, what's your thought? Let's go a little bit deeper into that, man. Like as black men, I remember a time when we were younger, Larry Frank. We talk about this all the time, to where Deon, me and you too, to where everybody on the block, if you got in trouble, could check you. But it's like today, like these kids, man, it's like you want to help, but it's like some of them are so out of control. If you say something, you might get killed. You know what I'm saying? They want to jump on you, but it's like, what can we do as black men to do our part to try to, address some of these issues that's going on in our community, bro?
Man, the first thing I'll say is we have to gain the trust of today's youth. And we do that by engaging with them directly. We can't do it like this on the computer. We have to be able to physically reach out and touch them and make them believe and know that we have a vested interest in their livelihood from every aspect of their lives, from their education to their professional choices to their day-to-day decisions. And we can do that by, I would say, one of the best ways is by entering mentorship programs. Volunteering your time for community service. There are a lot of kids out there who need mentors. There are a lot of volunteer programs through the Boys and Girls Club that you can engage in to try and impart your influence on a child, and even the kids that are around you that are in your family that you may not know about, because I mean, it's no secret in our communities, a lot of the children are raised in single parent homes by women. And no disrespect to the women, because they do a phenomenal job. And my hat goes off to all the single mothers out there. My mother was one of them. But, I mean, mothers aren't like our moms were. My mom was tough, and she ruled with an iron fist. And I had a healthy level of fear in my mother, because I knew that if I stepped out of line, there were going to be severe consequences.
Right.
We don't really have that now. So kids just kind of blow in the wind, and they just kind of raise themselves through social media, through entertainment, and through things that are very derogative and hurtful to their day-to-day progression. So, like I said, mentorship programs, volunteering, actually taking a vested interest in a child's life is the best way that we can at least try to affect change.
Definitely.
Do you and Devin and I had this conversation. We had some guests on a while back, and one of the guys was like, he didn't like the term black on black crime. He felt like that was a myth. We know what we see, we know what we hear, but coming from law enforcement, what's your view on that term black on black crime? Is it something that truly demonized the culture?
Yeah. Well, Larry, where I'm from, I like to call a spade a spade. Okay? If it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's a duck. Okay? When I worked as a police officer, and in the various positions that I held, from an investigative standpoint to becoming a department spokesman, I had firsthand knowledge and information on the victim of a crime and the suspect of the crime. So I get to see with my own eyes what the victim said and who the suspect is. And like I alluded to earlier, the vast majority of the crimes that happen now, we have some level of video evidence to support what the victim is saying, be it from a body camera or from some video surveillance from a business. So we don't have to wonder or guess or play hide the ball on, is this person white? Are they Hispanic? Are they Asian? No, we see this is a black male, right? This is a black male with the gun or with a ski mask on. Even if I put a ski mask on, you can still see that I'm black, right? So I really push back and resent the fact that black on black crime is a myth. It's not a myth to the mothers who lose their sons and daughters in crime. I've been a part of many death notifications with parents who are woken at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning with me telling them that their son has been killed. And those are experiences that I wish I could forget, but that I will never forget. The wailing, the pain, the anguish, the stress that is compounded onto the shoulders of a parent to hear that, to physically be grabbed and pulled on and told no and even struck because they're in disbelief. So to me, black on black crime is not a myth. It's a reality in my opinion. And that's a professional opinion based on 20 years of experience at multiple levels of policing and now on a federal level. It's happening every single day in every single city in this country. And we have to do a better job of getting engaged and understanding that we have a role to play as well. In other communities, many communities, when something happens that is not palatable or that people like, they get up and do something about it, right? They get engaged. They say, we're not going to stand for this. We're not going to allow this to happen. Why aren't we doing that? Why is it just that, okay, if an officer uses force and a person is killed, is that the only thing that tugs at your conscience? What about Monday through Friday in every major city in this country when we're out doing things that are completely reckless, illegal, and outside of the boundaries of any major norms of society? Why are we mad about that? Because I live in Houston, Texas, and I can tell you every single day things are happening here, from children being shot by mistake, road rage incidents, all different types of situations are happening. Why aren't we upset about that? Shootings happening at the mall when, in the middle of a Saturday because two rival gangs are shooting at each other. Is that the society we want to live in? Because I don't know about you, but I like to go to the mall sometimes and maybe buy a shirt or, just go walk around and see what's up there, window shop.
Right.
So we should take that same energy, that same interest, that same passion when officers step outside of, their oath and laws. We should take that same passion within our community. And like the old mantra goes, you need to sweep around your front door before you try to come and sweep around mine. There's some truth to that. If we want to be taken seriously, if we want people to, help champion the passions that we have to help propel our race and our society forward, these are the things that we need to do to help move that needle forward. I think that's my personal opinion.
Facts. I'm gonna ask you this right quick, and I want to piggyback on what you said because you hit the nail on the head about feeling safe when you go out. I don't know if you've been hearing or keeping up with what's been happening in New Orleans, but New Orleans is seriously undermanned. They need at least 2,000 officers. They only have 1,000, and they can't keep officers. Crime is out of control. They got random shootings on I-10. They got out of control with carjackings. My mom's born and raised uptown. I grew up a mere 35, 40 minutes from New Orleans. I don't even go to New Orleans no more because I'm scared. And I shouldn't feel like that because I'm born and raised as a kid going to New Orleans. But I wanted to transition a little bit. You hear about gun control. The government is big on gun control. That's a big topic. But I want to get a little bit more centralized with us. Gun control is not a problem in the black community that's just started with this mass attention on gun control with all of these mass shootings. We've had gun violence in our community for decades. I mean, you can watch old 70s movies, 60s movies that were centered in urban cities, and you can see portrayals of gang violence and gun violence. What I wanted to ask you, Deon, is your thoughts on how can we get a better handle on gun control within our communities, because you have buyback programs. programs where you're turning guns in where you won't get prosecuted or charged or whatever. That doesn't seem to work. You're not getting guns off the street. First of all, how are they getting dispersed on the street?
On the street.
How do we handle that?
Here's the number one issue that we have with guns entering the streets here in Houston, Texas. Responsible, well, let me rephrase that. Irresponsible gun owners leaving firearms in their vehicles unsecured. Criminals break in those cars, they steal the guns, and they enter the streets and become crime guns. The vast majority of firearms that we recover belong to lawful abiding gun owners. So it's your responsibility as a gun owner to make sure that your weapons are properly secured at all times. You should not be storing your firearm under the seat, in the glove compartment, tucked under a piece of paper, in a bag. It's too easy to have your window smashed and your gun stolen and used in a crime. And I don't know about, I mean, I'm sure I can speak on behalf of you guys, but I don't want any gun that I bought to be used in a crime, especially a homicide. That's something that would keep me up every night. Right. So it's extremely important if you're going to carry a firearm to make sure that it's properly secured in your vehicles and properly secured in your homes, because you can't be at home 24/7 and you can't be in your cars 24/7. But it's your responsibility to properly secure those weapons, not only for criminal activity, Larry, but also for children, right? Because young kids are very inquisitive. They know what guns look like, and they want to pick them up and touch them. And unfortunately, I can't tell you how many times I've been a part of investigations, both on the investigative side and also reporting as a public information officer, the loss of life of a child that found a loaded gun and harmed themselves or harmed another person, and they're no longer here with us. And those stories are heartbreaking. And the most important part is they are preventable. We can stop that. We can stop that by locking up those firearms. And making sure that our teens as well don't take those guns from their dads or their moms and use them in criminal activity. That happens as well. So you need to always, if you're going to be a gun owner, you need to always make sure that you're doing a proper inventory of where that firearm is, because some of our teens know, and they'll take those guns and they'll go out and use them without the parents' knowledge.
I got a question. So we talk about, cops that, I think you touched on it earlier about how certain cops, some cops, actually get a bad rap, when they, misuse the oath and the badge. So, with body cameras, are out now and cops are wearing body cameras, how important is that now to, capture like some of these crimes against officers, against citizens? Like, do you think that was an important move, like for officers to start wearing body cameras?
Absolutely. I'll tell you, change is always tough, right? Nobody really likes change. It takes a little while to get acclimated to it and to be okay with it. But having started law enforcement without body cameras and having seen the evolution to today, now, like I said, every reputable department requiring their first responders to have body cameras, I think it's a great thing, because it is another tool and, light being shined on exactly what took place. You don't have to take my word for it. You don't have to take the word of the citizen. You have a pretty good picture of what took place on that particular scene. So yes, I think it's a great thing. But we all still have to keep in mind that it only shows one view of what happened. It doesn't give you an opportunity to see what the officer is seeing, to smell what the officer is smelling. So there's some senses that you're missing, but it is definitely a great glimpse into what is happening as that scene is unfolding. I'm definitely pro body camera.
Okay.
I would want 2 body cameras if I was still a police.
And talk about your transition, man, going into being a federal agent now, man. I mean, like I say, I've seen you, man, you know, from going from the police department, man, to being a spokesperson for the homicide, not a reporter, spokesperson for the homicide investigation, and now you're a federal agent, man. I've seen you just grow, man. Just tell us a little bit, man. How is that now, man? Being a federal agent, man. You done left me in Atlanta, man. You out there in Texas where everything they say is big, Larry. Afraid that's what they say now. How's it out there in Texas, bro?
I like it, man. Texas is nice, man. It's a blessing to be closer to family, and sisters, and from Louisiana, Larry. We have a very close. I don't know anyone from Louisiana that's not close to their family. I mean, it's just, if you're from there, you're gonna want to be there and go there and be around your folks as much as possible. That's just the way we were raised. So it's a blessing to be here. As far as becoming a federal agent, it's also a very humbling, and I'm blessed to even have that opportunity, because there are a lot of people that would love to have that opportunity, and I'm very thankful for all the people that have supported me over the years. You, Devin, a lot of the people to all that just called in, Ryan, all my friends, family, loved ones. I'm very humbled and thankful for all the support that I've had over the years to even have that opportunity, because a lot of hard work and sleepless nights and venting to many different people is part of the reason why I've had that opportunity. As far as the job itself, it is very eye opening. It is very demanding, because you realize that the cases that you work and the things that you do, they aren't just impacting your local area, your county, or your city. They have national implications, and they reverberate all the way back to Washington D.C. And so you really are more careful and more judicious and thoughtful about the steps that you take, because I mean they call it a federal agency for a reason. It's a representation of the federal government. ATF is a organization that has a very serious function, and it's very humbling, and it requires a high level of seriousness and dedication.
Definitely. Larry Frank, you got anything before we get ready to get him out of here and close out?
uh Man, look, it's just been a real enlightening conversation that I have to, like I say, a lot of stuff I've known, but I've also learned a lot more stuff just in this interview. And that's, they always say you never can learn enough. You never can learn enough. So, all I want to tell you, Deon, is, man, once again, not just from the Army side, the war side, thank you for your service, but thank you for your service out here in the field. Thank you for your service every day, and I'm like this, man. People need to understand that all police officers, law enforcement, are not bad.
That's right.
That's one of the biggest
That's right.
misconceptions. I mean, don't get me
Yes.
wrong. Coming up, we all loved that song by NWA. We all loved it, but we were young. We didn't understand it. When you look at what you have to deal with, knowing that when you walk out that door, you are not guaranteed to come home. You don't have to get involved in any kind of a confrontation or an altercation just because of the title and the way that society is. You could be just sitting down or just walking with your body armor or whatever on,
Mm-hmm.
something could happen. So I just want to tell you, thank you for your service. Thank you for all you do, and prayers and blessings to you on this journey.
Well, I appreciate it, man. That's very kind of you to say, and I'm thankful for all of you, and I appreciate all of the support, and appreciate the opportunity to be on your show. You do a great job, and I look forward to continuing to watch you grow.
Man, most definitely, man. You already know what it is with me and you, man. It goes beyond, you know, this show, man. We've known each other now, man, over 15 years, man, and it's a brotherhood. So you know how I feel about you, man. I love you, man, and I appreciate you coming on, man. And continued success to you. And definitely gonna have you back on, man, in the near future, man. So thank you again, man. You Talk family, man. Let's give our brother, my brother, me and Larry Frank, brother, You Talk brother, Deon Washington, a round of applause, man. My God, man. My God. Oh, man, we got somebody checking in from Dallas, Texas, man. HS Mitchell L, man. What's going on, man? Texas in the house. What's going on? And like Larry Frank said too, man, about the music with NWA, the difference is, we wasn't reacting. We just liked the music. We wasn't reacting to the lyrics, and that's the difference between this generation.
Yeah.
Stop letting this music, influence you guys, man, because most of these guys you listening to, man, ain't living the life they talking about. I guarantee you they ain't living in the neighborhoods that you living in. So stop being influenced by this damn music that you listening to, man. It's only entertainment. So
let me say, we didn't even get on that part, right?
No, we got. If you
we got time, address it.
We didn't get on that part, and I'm laughing because of you saying it's only entertainment. You would think that you wouldn't have to say that, but the irony of that is, I feel like there should be a law that says on these rap lyrics and songs that this is for entertainment purposes only. We do not, and you should not, engage in this type of activity, because if you do so, you will be subjected to criminal prosecution by law enforcement.
Right.
There's a big difference between reality and entertainment, because I can tell you from firsthand experience, when you're sitting in an interrogation room with me and I introduce myself, all of the rap music, all of the glitz and the glam and who you thought you were, the posturing, or even if you're a real rapper or entertainer, that stuff goes out the window when your name is on an indictment, right? Especially when we have evidence that could send you away for decades. When all of your friends and family are, trying to put together money to support your bail or bond, that's not a comfortable situation to be in. And I'm so thankful that we're having this conversation, because people don't really think about that until they're in that particular situation.
So we go watch First 48 too, man. As soon as they get in that interrogation room, we snitching, don't they?
Yeah.
And listen, that's reality, right? There is no loyalty. I'll put that out. I'll be the spoiler alert and say there is no true loyalty between criminals. It doesn't exist. So your boys that claim that they're so down and they're so loyal and so dedicated to you for whatever reason, you guys wear the same color shirts, you have the same tattoos, you have the same magical handshakes and gang signs. None of that stuff means anything when you're in an interrogation room talking to a trained and seasoned investigator, okay? Because the stakes become completely different. And like I said, when you're facing in this country life or death for homicide, and in the state of Georgia, it's a 10-year minimum for armed robbery. So who wants to do that? Who has 10 years or 20 years to just give away and go sit in a jail cell. Nobody has that. I don't listen. I'm in law enforcement, and I don't like going to the jail. As soon as I get in there, I'm like, man, let's hurry up and get out of here. I don't want to be there. So I can't imagine why people, like one of my buddies likes to say, they like to break into the jail. They must think it's cool. There must be a big party going on. But in all seriousness, man, we've got to do a better job of making other things appealing and attractive to our youth, as opposed to glorifying jewelry, cars, and like I said, the sexualization of women and fast money. Because, like you said, man, the majority of those rappers, they are not living like that. That is not reality. The cars are rented. The jewelry is rented. The women are rented. And it's not real.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up. So, listen, you guys, like I say, the content of this show, man, like I told you guys, this is what we do. There's other important things in life to talk about besides just football and sports, man. And these are the type of things that we talk about on You Talk, man. We switch it up from time to time. And this is the edition of You Talk, winning at the game of life, man. It's real stuff that's going on out here in the world, and we're going to talk about it. We're not going to shy away from conversations. You know, it's always open to, you guys feel free to call up and want to talk, ask questions. We are here, but this is what we're going to do. And this is part of, the platform. We talk about all things, man, not just sports, man. In the night, You Talk, winning at the game of life with Officer Deon Washington, federal agent, man. Shout out to my guy, man, one more time, man. Thank you so much, man. So look here, man. I know you from Louisiana. I know you an LSU Tiger, but you know what I'm saying? It don't change, man. You over here on You Talk tonight, and we do a little sub over here. Man, shout out to Frederick, man. Let me put Frederick up, man. We do a little sub over here. So, man, listen, man. Like, you my brother, but you got to participate tonight because you on You Talk. You got your boy tonight. Do you got me? Okay,
hey, D. Let me say this. I can't stand LSU. So when I get an LSU fan throwing up the U, boy, look, that's golden right there. That's what I'm talking about. That's better than the Mega Million.
That's what it is. Yeah. You Talk family, man. Y'all know how we start every show, and y'all know how we end every show. It ain't no us. Shout out to Deon Washington, man.
Without you, man.
Without you, baby.
Without you,
hey,
baby.
Man. Everybody stay safe, man. We love y'all, man. It's You Talk, man. See y'all Friday night, man. You Talk, man. We're going to be talking Miami Hurricane football. The season is almost here. It's You Talk, baby, man. Let's go. Take care.
It's You Talk, baby.